Hello, my name is Emma Funk, and for Article 2, I'm going to be talking about an article I read entitled Health Status of Recreational Runners Over 10 Kilometers Up to Ultramarathon Distance Based on Data of NURMI Study Step 2. So that is my contact information down there. You can reach me at ecfunk@g.clemson.edu, and let's get into it. So here is the first page of the article that I'm going to be talking about today. So you can see that over on the left-hand side, we have the citation, and it was written by several different authors. So I got this from scientificreports.com, and it was published in 2022. So it's pretty recent, but the study started in 2015, so they were reviewing the data for a while. Essentially, the purpose of the study was to investigate health-related indicators and behaviors of recreational endurance runners and compare their health status across different races to see if one race is more beneficial for the overall health of an individual than a different race. For example, if running an ultramarathon is more beneficial to your health than just running 10 kilometers, which is about a little over 6 miles. So running is a really popular form of physical activity due to the fact that any athlete can do it no matter their fitness level. It's very tailored towards you. Little to no equipment. It can be done pretty much anywhere at any time. And over the past decade, the number of runners participating in endurance races has increased significantly. And this is due to several motivations of these runners, but the primary reason that most runners stated was just to improve their health, but there are many other factors such as winning was listed as one, wanting to decrease their BMI or body weight, and also just wanting to run for a fast time. So runners are depicted as the healthiest fraction of the human population, and this is because regular participation in recreational running positively affects body weight, body fat, blood pressure, blood glucose levels, insulin sensitivity, and blood lipid profile, musculoskeletal health, and mental health as well. So there are adverse effects that can happen with too much running, like many other forms of exercise if you do them beyond what your body can handle, and those are musculoskeletal injury, excessive weight loss, and cardiovascular abnormalities. So what these investigators thought in the study, or what their hypothesis was the health status differs between endurance runners over 10 kilometers, half marathon, and marathon/ultramarathon runners. So basically they were saying that these different types of races and the runners that run these races will have different health levels. And how they assessed this was they used the Nutrition and Running High Mileage Index, which is designed by an interdisciplinary team of scientists and aims to assess and compare recreational endurance runners by sex, race, distance, diet, type, etc. So it was basically a giant database just combined of a bunch of different parameters of runners, so you can compare men and women that run half marathons, or say a vegetarian versus someone who eats meat, and their health status and mile time and stuff like that. So it can be used to conduct a variety of different investigations. So how this database was formed was through 3 steps of collecting data. So step 1 was examining the epidemiological aspects. Step 2 focuses on behaviors, considering running, training, racing, nutrition, health, which is the step that was used in this study I read today. And then step 3, investigate running performance linked to diet and sports psychological parameters. So the recruitment for the individuals that they used in this study, they were mostly German-speaking countries, and they were contacted by recruiters through social media, online runner pages. If you signed up for a marathon and your information was listed, they contacted you. Subscribers to health and lifestyle magazines, personal contacts, and areas like that. So you can kind of see that the runners that they got were already probably would consider themselves pretty healthy just from the ways that they were being reached out to, which is something to take into account when you're examining the results of this study. And then the inclusion criteria, out of all those people that applied to be in the study, you had to have written informed consent, at least 18 years of age. You had to complete the step 2 of the questionnaire listed above. You had to have a BMI of less than 30 kilograms per meter squared, and successful participation of running in an event of at least a half marathon distance. So here we have a chart that goes through how they cleared out people from the study, how they eliminated bias, and also they wanted to eliminate conflicting answers between runners. So you can see that they started off with that many runners and went through each question, then were able to eliminate based upon that. And then the control questions were to control for factors such as like self-bias and conflicting answers given by runners. So by the end, we were able to see that they narrowed it down to 245 endurance runners, with 89 of those being half marathons, 65 either being ultra marathon or marathon runners, and 91 with 10 kilometers. So health is a really broad category, so that was kind of an ambitious thing to kind of quantify just based off of the results that they were given from like the data set. So they had about 10 different health related indicators and behaviors from the runners that like were self-recorded. So the health related indicators that they used to measure their health was body weight and BMI, their mental health, chronic disease, prevalence of metabolic disease, prevalence of hypersensitivity reactions, medication intake, and then for behaviors, which is something we talked about in class, how if you're a marathon runner, you know, you're probably going to be a little more conscious of what goes into your body and you're smoking because that is going to affect your race. So they also use that to measure health. And again, those are listed below. So smoking habits, supplement intake, food choice, and healthcare utilization and regular checkups, which I thought was a really interesting category to include. So to perform the statistical analysis, they used an R software, and the exploratory analysis was performed by that statistical software, and it looked for median NIQR. And then the state of health was statistically modeled as a latent variable and was derived by manifest variables, and it was measured by a heuristic index of 0 to 1. So a low score would be that running that distance was detrimental to their health, and a high score, so towards 1, would mean that running that distance is beneficial for their health. So the results of this study, the mean age of the participants were 39 with a BMI of 21.72. And the dimension of chronic disease and hypersensitivity reactions is like what I chose to specifically focus on, because that was kind of what we talked about in class, that running has a lot of benefits towards increased cardiovascular health and preventing disease and stuff like that. So there was no significant association between race distance and prevalence of cardiovascular diseases, cancer, metabolic diseases, and hypersensitivity reactions. So that was just saying that there was really not a big difference between the race distances and the health parameters they were kind of looking at for the most part, but they did say that half marathon runners reported having no metabolic diseases at 92%, 73% reported having no hypersensitivity reactions, and they were the group to suffer from allergies the least often. So while there was no race distance that contributed to having chronic disease, increased risk of cancer, cardiovascular problems, they did see that half marathoners were the group that seemed to have these problems the least and had allergies the least often. And something I also wanted to include was that half marathon runners were the least often to suffer from perceived stress out of all of the other groups examined. So what are the conclusions of this study? Basically, it showed that all distance of running, regardless if it's a 10K, an ultra marathon, any type of running is going to improve your health, your cardiovascular fitness, decrease your risk for chronic disease. All of it's good. However, half marathon runners showed an optimal state of health compared to the other distances of racers. So basically they said all running is good, all distance is good, except half marathon, so a 13.1 race, like they showed the most optimal health. And it also found in the study that chronic disease and hypersensitivity reactions were found to have a significant association with distance. and that these occurrences were much lower in half marathon runners compared to the other evaluated distances. So why did I choose this study? How does it relate to class? Well, I wanted to find out how much is too much. And we see Goldilocks over there, which I thought was very fitting for this study because it kind of showed you don't want too little, but you don't want too much. You want the happy medium, which is the half marathon and like the medium bowl of porridge, I guess. So running like any exercise puts stress on our bodies. And we learned in class that too much exercise, eventually you surpass a rate where the positive effects of exercise are offset by the physical damage you're putting on your body from that stress. So as a runner who enjoys participating in races as a hobby, and it's something I want to do for a long time, my family does it, like all of my older aunts and my mom, we all participate in races. I kind of wanted to see what distance is associated with optimal health. Just for my own knowledge of when I get older, how can I continue to run without putting myself at risk for developing any injuries and just keep myself healthy. So I feel like we often associate longer and faster with better, that like obviously if an ultra marathoner is running, they're probably in better health than a half marathoner because they can run longer. But from the study, we showed that that's not really true. And that was also what we talked about in class, that just too much intensity or too long of a duration can eventually become not beneficial to your overall health just because of the extreme stress it puts on your body. And another conclusion that I thought was interesting that kind of tied into class, because there were several factors that reading this article I was able to associate what we just learned, especially with like the health related actions and I guess like preferences and stuff, where we talked about how someone who's fit like also probably eats well or also probably goes to the doctor and cares more about their health. So while diet was something that was assessed in the study, I kind of wanted to focus on the mental health aspect of it, because we did see that especially with the immune system, mental health was a really big factor, and that happier people were generally more healthy because they were putting less of that mental stress on their body, which at the end of the day is just another form of stress like exercise. So again, the half marathon was a good distance where we saw the benefits of endurance exercise and also the lowest stress levels. And I thought something that was interesting that they talked about in the study is they put an emphasis on recreational and not competitive, meaning that these people were doing it for fun and just wanted to improve their overall health. So from there, I kind of concluded that like also your mindset when you're running has a lot to do with your overall health, which I thought was very interesting. So overall, this study kind of did support what we did learn in class. And yeah, thank you for listening. And